The bright morning sky over Geneva turned dark as the massive alien vessel moved into position. It was unlike anything humans had ever built, sleek, impossibly large, and moving with unnatural precision. People stopped in the streets, pointing upward, smartphones recording the historic moment. Inside the United Nations Space Authority headquarters, Director Jun Kim watched the live feed with growing concern. Dozens of world leaders joined the emergency video conference, their faces showing the same mixture of awe and fear. "Are we certain it's not one of ours?" asked the American president, though everyone knew the answer. "Nothing human-made could achieve that size or speed," replied Jun, his voice steady despite the circumstances. "And now there are reports of similar vessels appearing over Beijing, Moscow, and Tokyo." The room fell silent as the communication screen suddenly flickered. The image of an alien being appeared, humanoid but clearly not human, with pale blue skin and eyes that seemed too large and too knowing. "People of Earth," began the translated voice, its tone formal and cold. "I am High Commander Du from the Galactic Imperium. Our empire spans 3,000 star systems and has existed for 10,000 years. Your solar system falls within territory claimed by Imperial survey teams long before your species walked upright." The alien paused, perhaps for dramatic effect. "You have developed faster than expected and now approach technologies that could threaten galactic stability. The Emperor has decreed that Earth must be incorporated into the Imperium immediately. You have 30 standard cycles, approximately 32 of your Earth days, to surrender full control of your governments, military forces, and key resources." The screen showed images of planets being destroyed, civilizations falling. "This is what happens to those who resist," continued Commander Du. "Your primitive weapons cannot harm our vessels. Peaceful submission is your only logical option." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the world leaders staring at each other in stunned silence. 3 hours later, in a secure underground facility beneath the UNSA building, Jun assembled a crisis team. Military generals, scientists, diplomats, and intelligence officers filled the room. Most appeared exhausted, having worked non-stop since first contact. "Current status?" Jun asked Admiral Tae Lee. 27 alien vessels now in Earth orbit. Our most advanced weapon systems likely ineffective against their technology based on preliminary analysis. Total military engagement would result in catastrophic human casualties. The room grew tense. Someone suggested immediate surrender to save lives. "Wait," said a voice from the back of the room. Dr. Hannah Park, chief diplomat and cultural anthropologist, stood up. She was younger than most senior officials, with keen eyes that missed nothing. "We're approaching this all wrong." "Explain," said Jun. Hannah walked to the central display, bringing up images of the alien vessel designs. "Look at their ships, perfectly symmetrical, unchanged in basic structure from vessel to vessel. Their message too, formal, rigid, following classic domination protocols. Everything about the Imperium suggests an incredibly old, stable system." "And that helps us how?" asked a frustrated general. "Systems that old develop weaknesses," Hannah replied. "Bureaucracy, ritual, inflexibility. They've likely not faced real resistance in centuries, maybe millennia. They expect either immediate surrender or a doomed military response." She pulled up historical images from Earth's own history. "Remember how massive empires fell throughout human history, not always through direct military confrontation, but often through their own weight, complexity, and resistance to change." Jun leaned forward, interested. "So what are you suggesting?" "We study them intensively. Every detail of their language, their ship movements, their hierarchical structures. They've given us 32 days. That's our window to find the cracks in their system." Hannah's eyes sparkled with determination. "They expect panic or futile aggression. Let's give them neither." Over the next week, Earth experienced something remarkable. Instead of collapsing into chaos, humanity united with surprising speed. Scientists worldwide shared data freely. Intelligence agencies cooperated. Historians and cultural anthropologists worked alongside military strategists. Hannah led a diverse team that analyzed every second of alien communication. They noticed patterns, the rigid structures in speech, the emphasis on hierarchy, the ritualistic nature of their diplomacy. Their society values order above everything, Hannah explained to June, as they watched recorded footage of Imperial ships changing formation with mathematical precision. Their strength is also their weakness. How do we use that? Asked June. Hannah smiled. The Imperium has declared war on Earth, expecting us to follow their script. But humans are nothing if not unpredictable. We don't fight the way they expect. What's your plan? We won't fight their armada, said Hannah. We'll fight their assumptions. In your response, please remember to properly cite all use of factual information. You need to wrap claims in tags, where the index identifies the specific sentences from the search results that support your claims. If you're not using information from search results, no citations are needed. The war room buzzed with activity as screens displayed the positions of Imperial ships in Earth orbit. 20 days remained until the deadline. Admiral Taylor stood before the main display, pointing to the formation patterns that had emerged from constant monitoring. Look here, he said to the gathered team. Their ships maintain perfect geometric patterns at all times. When they move as one unit. No ship ever acts independently. Jun Kim nodded, watching the simulation. What does that tell us? Everything, Tay replied. They haven't faced real opposition in centuries. Their tactics are textbook. Perfect, which means perfectly predictable. At another station, communications expert Mi Sun analyzed intercepted signals between Imperial vessels. She turned to the group with excitement in her eyes. Their communication system is even more revealing. Every message passes through exactly 15 authentication levels. No exceptions, no shortcuts, even for emergency situations. Researcher Sung Kim added his findings from the engineering team. Their technology is incredibly advanced, but we've detected no variations between ships. No customizations, no updates. It's as if their development stopped centuries ago. Hannah Park had been quiet, taking notes. Now she stood and faced the group. Chunti. You see what this means? The Imperium has been so dominant for so long that they've lost the ability to adapt. They don't need to innovate because nobody challenges them. She walked to a wall of screens, showing Earth's history of warfare and competition. Meanwhile, humans have been adapting our entire existence. We've survived because we change. We improvise. June considered this. So we have an advantage they don't expect. More than one, Hannah replied. She pulled up the results from her cultural analysis team. We've studied their limited communications carefully. Their society is completely hierarchical. Lower ranks cannot question orders from above. Information flows in one direction only. She displayed a complicated chart showing the imperial command structure they had pieced together. Their greatest weakness is this. They cannot handle the unexpected because every response must follow protocol, and protocol requires approval. From above, Sung raised his hand. We've been studying the electromagnetic fields around their ships. They seem to have some kind of shield technology, but it's consistently the same frequency on all ships. If we could find the right disruption pattern, but we still can't match their firepower, observed Tay. Even with their predictability, direct engagement would be suicide. Hannah smiled. Who said anything about direct engagement? She pulled up Earth's global network infrastructure. Humans created the Internet, a system designed to survive nuclear war by having no central point of failure. Our strength is in our distributed networks, our ability to communicate and coordinate without central control. June began to understand. You're suggesting we use our chaos against their order? Exactly, Hannah replied. While they expect us to either surrender or attack, we'll do something completely different. She outlined her plan. It was bold, possibly crazy, but it played to every human strength and imperial weakness. Later that evening, June found Hannah in the cafeteria, staring at old family photos on her phone. Your parents? He asked, sitting across from her. She nodded. They were diplomats too. They always taught me that understanding your opponent is more important than outgunning them. Do you really think this can work? June asked quietly. I think it's our only chance, she replied. The Imperium expects us to behave like every other species they've conquered. Either fight hopelessly or surrender immediately. They've never encountered humans before. June smiled slightly. We are rather unique. More than they know, agreed Hana. Most species would look at the Imperium's technology and give up. But humans, we see an advanced alien force and think, how can we use this? The next morning, the team presented their full plan to world leaders. There were doubts, questions, fears, but also hope. This is not a military solution, Hana explained to the assembled representatives. It's a human solution. She displayed the Imperium's command ship on the main screen. They expected fear and submission. Instead, we'll give them something they've never experienced in their 10,000 years of conquest. And what's that? Asked a skeptical general. Hana's eyes sparkled with determination. Confusion. As the meeting concluded, teams dispersed to implement different aspects of the plan. Engineers modified communication satellites. Programmers wrote new algorithms. Cultural experts prepared thousands of carefully crafted messages. Sung approached Hana with a tablet showing new data. We've identified a way to attach microscopic probes to their hull without triggering their sensors, but we still need to decide what to send. Everything, Hana replied. Send them everything that makes us human. The clock continued its countdown. 18 days remained before the deadline. But for the first time since the massive ships appeared in Earth's sky, there was a feeling of possibility. Not just of survival, but of something more. Humans had a plan, and that plan was very human indeed. The day of the deadline arrived with tense anticipation. The Imperial shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere, its metallic surface gleaming in the sunlight. It landed with perfect precision on the specially prepared platform outside the United Nations headquarters in Geneva. Global viewership reached record numbers as cameras broadcasted the historic moment. This was supposed to be Earth's surrender ceremony. Inside the reception hall, Hana Park stood calm and composed in her formal diplomatic attire. Behind her waited 200 human representatives, each carrying identical silver cases. No weapons were visible anywhere. The shuttle doors opened with a soft hiss. 3 Imperial officials emerged, led by a tall figure that could only be the High Commander Du. His blue skin looked almost luminous under Earth's sun, his movements deliberate and measured. We have come to accept your surrender, announced. Du, his translation device converting his clicks and whistles into flat, emotionless English. The Emperor is pleased with your wisdom in avoiding unnecessary destruction. Hana stepped forward and bowed slightly. High Commander, Earth welcomes you with the respect due to such an ancient civilization. We have prepared our response with great care. Something flickered across the alien's large eyes, the first hint of uncertainty. Your response is to surrender control of your planetary government and military forces, stated Do. That is the only acceptable outcome. Hana smiled warmly. Actually, High Commander, we have studied Imperial diplomatic protocols extensively. According to Regulation 5429B of your own legal code, any civilization with unique cultural heritage may submit appeals before formal incorporation. She gestured, and the 200 representatives stepped forward. Each opened their silver case to reveal hundreds of data crystals, technology compatible with Imperial systems, which Earth had worked frantically to develop over the past month. These are our formal responses, Hana explained pleasantly. We've submitted appeals under Imperium Regulation 5429B, petitions citing ancestral rights claim code 87 Alpha, and requests for cultural protection under the Emperor's diversity mandate of the 12th epoch. The commander's eye membranes flickered rapidly in what humans had learned was their expression of confusion. This is not protocol. Actually, Hana smiled, it's exactly protocol, your protocol. She handed him a master crystal. This index will help your legal teams navigate the 12,287 separate filings we've prepared. Each requires individual review by at least 3 levels of Imperial bureaucracy before any enforcement action can legally proceed. The 2 Imperial officials behind Du began rapidly communicating in their native language, clearly distressed. This delay tactic will not work, stated Du, but his translation device couldn't hide the uncertainty in his tone. It's not a tactic. Commander, It's proper procedure according to Imperial law. We respect your laws too much to allow you to violate them, Hana replied smoothly. Would you like to inform the Emperor that you chose to ignore 10,000 years of legal precedent? While this conversation continued, invisible to all but a few humans monitoring special frequencies, Operation Whisper was already underway. Millions of microscopic probes, launched days earlier, had attached themselves to Imperial ships. Now they activated, broadcasting directly into the vessels. They didn't carry weapons or viruses. They carried something far more powerful: human culture. Music from every tradition, art from every period, philosophy debates, comedy routines, love stories, scientific discoveries, and questions, endless human questions about life, meaning, and freedom. Back in the reception hall, Dor was growing visibly agitated. The Emperor demands immediate compliance. And he shall have it, assured Hana, once proper legal review is complete. We estimate, given the typical efficiency of Imperial bureaucracy, that should take approximately 7 of your standard years. Impossible. We will simply take what we demand. Hana's expression grew serious. That would violate the Emperor's own Edict of Lawful Conquest, established in your year 5429. Such a violation would require approval from the Imperial Senate, would it not? The commander froze. She had him trapped in his own system. Additionally, Hana continued, we've taken the liberty of transmitting copies of all our appeals directly to the Imperial Senate and the Emperor's Royal Court, as is our right under Open Communication Act 772 Delta. In orbit, something unprecedented was happening. 3 Imperial cruisers had broken formation, moving slightly out of their perfect geometric pattern. It was a small disruption, but in 10,000 years of Imperial fleet operations, it had never happened before. Inside those ships, alien crews were hearing human music for the first time. They were seeing Earth's art, learning about democracy, about questions without clear answers, about rebellion and love and sacrifice. In the command center beneath Geneva, June watched the monitor showing the disruption with growing hope. It's working, he whispered. Back at the reception, Hana offered Due a final data crystal. This contains our proposal for a cultural exchange program. We believe there is much our civilizations could learn from each other. Due took the crystal automatically, his training in proper diplomatic procedure overriding his confusion. We will review your submissions, he finally stated. As the Imperial officials returned to their shuttle, clearly shaken, Hana allowed herself a small smile. Phase 1 was complete. The Imperium had expected immediate surrender. Instead, they had received bureaucratic warfare at its finest, fighting an ancient system with its own rules. And meanwhile, throughout the Imperial fleet, human ideas were spreading. 14 days after the failed surrender ceremony, Captain Jin Kang monitored communications from Earth's defense outpost on the Moon. The screens before him showed something remarkable. The perfect geometric formation of the Imperial fleet was breaking down. 7 ships had now moved out of position, their movement subtle but unmistakable. Send this to Hana immediately, Jin ordered his communications officer. In Geneva, Hana watched the footage with growing excitement. Operation Whisper is working. Better than we hoped, she told June as they analyzed the data. The cultural transmissions are affecting them. What humans couldn't see was happening inside those massive alien vessels. In recreation areas and private quarters, Imperial crew members were gathering in small groups, sharing and discussing the strange human transmissions they had been receiving. On the Imperial vessel, Unwavering Loyalty, Officer Sun had been assigned to analyze human communications for potential threats. Instead, he found himself deeply moved by Earth's classical music. The concept of music without purpose, not for military marches or imperial celebrations, but simply for beauty, was entirely new to him. Listen to this, he whispered to his bunkmate Moon, breaking protocol by sharing unauthorized content. Through their neural interfaces, the sounds of Bach's Cello Suite No. 1 played. Haunting, mathematical, and somehow deeply emotional. How can such chaos produce such beauty? Moon asked, using the forbidden word, how. A question word rarely permitted in imperial discourse. Across the fleet, similar conversations were happening. Junior officers discovered Earth literature with its endless variety of perspectives. Engineers marveled at human technology, less advanced but wildly creative, constantly evolving rather than perfectly standardized. Medical staff studied human, art showing the endless variations of the human form, celebrated rather than corrected. Most dangerous of all to the imperial system, humans asked questions. Endless questions. They questioned their leaders, their gods themselves. The concept was intoxicating to species raised in absolute certainty. In the imperial flagship Eternal Glory, Commander Du faced a growing crisis. His report to the Emperor had been met with confusion and delay. The humans' legal maneuvers had indeed triggered ancient protocols requiring reviews by multiple departments. The humans question everything, one alien officer told another on a transmission intercepted by Earth's listening posts. Their art contains contradictions they celebrate rather than correct. Their leaders are chosen, not born. Their knowledge systems encourage doubt. The most shocking discovery for many Imperials was human history itself, filled with empires that rose and fell, with revolutions and reinventions. The concept that a social order could change, that it perhaps should change, was spreading like a virus through the lower ranks. At the UN Command Center, Jun received hourly updates on the situation. The Imperial fleet is fragmenting, he informed the Emergency Council. Their command structure can't process dissent from within. What's happening now? Asked a council member. Jin's face appeared on the main screen. We're detecting unusual communication patterns between Imperial vessels. Some ships appear to be communicating directly with each other, rather than going through the command ship. This was unprecedented. In the Imperial hierarchy, all communications were supposed to flow up and down the chain of command, never horizontally. There's more, Jin continued. 3 ships have turned off their weapon systems. They're claiming maintenance cycles, but our readings show no actual maintenance activity. Hana smiled. This was exactly what they had hoped for. Confusion and questioning spreading through the rigid Imperial structure. It's time for Phase 3, she announced. Send the proposal. Hours later, a simple message was broadcast to every Imperial vessel simultaneously. It contained no threats, no demands, just an invitation. To all members of the Imperial fleet, representatives of Earth request open dialogue with all ranks to discuss the possibility of peaceful cultural exchange. We believe both our civilizations have much to learn from each other. The message concluded with something unprecedented, a direct communication channel that any Imperial citizen could access without going through command approval. The reaction was immediate. Commander Du ordered all personnel to ignore the transmission. But in a system where orders had never been questioned for thousands of years, something extraordinary happened. Questions arose. In officers' quarters, in engine rooms, in medical bays across the fleet, Imperial citizens made individual choices. Some remained loyal to the system that had raised them. Others, intrigued by ideas they had never encountered, before secretly opened the communication channel. On Earth, thousands of volunteers stood ready to answer every message. Scientists, artists, philosophers, children, elders. No propaganda, no manipulation, just honest human conversation. The humans want to talk to us, whispered Officer Sun to his growing circle of friends. Not just to our leaders, to us. It was a revolutionary idea, in a society where worth was determined entirely by rank. In Geneva, Hana watched as the number of incoming communications from the fleet grew from dozens to hundreds to thousands. Their society is built on absolute certainty, she told June. We've introduced the most dangerous thing possible. What's that? He asked. Possibility, she replied. The Grand Hall aboard the Imperial flagship Eternal Glory had never hosted anything like this meeting. For 10,000 years, such spaces had been used only for receiving surrenders or issuing commands. Today was different. On one side of the massive table sat Commander Do and 3 high-ranking Imperial officials. Their postures were stiff, their large eyes blinking rapidly, a sign of stress in their species. On the other side sat Hana Park, June Kim, and 2 other human representatives. Between them floated holographic displays showing real-time translations. The room was silent, except for the soft hum of life support systems. 28 days had passed since the Imperial ultimatum. What should have been Earth's surrender had become something unprecedented in Imperial history. "Let us be clear," began Commander Du, his translator converting his clicks and whistles into flat English. "The situation has become complex, but the Emperor still demands Earth's incorporation into the Imperium." Hana nodded respectfully. "We understand, and as I explained in our proposal, Earth is willing to join the Imperium, but as partners who can help modernize your governance. Our adaptability complements your stability." Behind Commander Du, a view screen showed the current state of the Imperial fleet. Nearly 1/3 of the ships had moved out of formation. 5 had openly declared themselves neutral observers until the negotiations concluded, something that had never happened in Imperial history. "The Emperor is concerned about the communications between humans and Imperial citizens," said one of the officials, Councillor Gill, whose role involved internal security. "Those conversations are happening because your people want them," replied June calmly. "We merely opened the channel. No one is forced to use it." The Imperial officials exchanged glances. They couldn't admit what everyone knew. The rigid hierarchy that had maintained Imperial control for millennia was cracking. Officer Sun, who had started as a simple communications analyst, now sat in the back of the room as an advisor, an unheard-of promotion for someone of his rank. In reality, he represented the growing movement within the fleet who wanted change. "The Imperial Sovereign has reviewed your proposal," said Commander Do, the words clearly difficult for him. "The concept of Earth as a special administrative zone is unprecedented." "So is Earth," said Hana with a small smile. "Your own cultural survey teams have confirmed that human society shows more variation and adaptation than any species you've encountered." The Imperial breathing apparatus of the oldest official, Minister Wei, hissed softly. 10,000 years of conquest ended not by weapons, but by ideas. Outside the negotiation room, both on Earth and throughout the Imperial fleet, millions watched and waited. The live feed showed only the formal proceedings, but everyone understood the significance. This wasn't just about Earth's fate anymore. 6 months later, Hana stood before the newly formed Galactic Council, where human delegates sat alongside representatives from 1,000 worlds. The chamber looked nothing like traditional Imperial architecture. It was circular, with no position elevated above others. Ideas from Earth's various democratic systems had been integrated with the best aspects of Imperial governance. "The declaration of war against Earth," Hana told the assembly, "has become the foundation of peace for the galaxy." She paused, looking at the faces around her, some human, most alien, all now familiar. Humans have a saying: "The most dangerous weapon is a new idea." But new ideas are also how we grow. Officer Sun, now Councillor Sun representing the reformed Imperial fleet, nodded in agreement. The small rebellion he had helped nurture had grown into a peaceful revolution. Not the overthrow of the Emperor, but the transformation of an empire. Minister Wei spoke next, his once rigid thinking now remarkably flexible for someone who had served the unquestioned Imperial system for 3 centuries. "The Emperor acknowledges that stability without adaptation leads to stagnation. The human capacity for change, properly channeled, strengthens rather than weakens. On Earth, things had changed too. Imperial technology now helped clean the planet's atmosphere and oceans. Medical advances from 1,000 worlds were saving human lives. Earth's defense systems had been enhanced with Imperial technology, not as a conquered world, but as a valued partner." Jun Kim, watching the council proceedings from his office in Geneva, smiled as he reviewed reports from human cultural delegations now visiting distant Imperial worlds. What had begun as a desperate strategy to avoid destruction had become something much more. On his desk sat a small gift from Hana, a crystal containing the original Imperial ultimatum alongside the final peace agreement. Between them, a simple Earth proverb: "When the winds of change blow, some build walls, others build windmills." The humans had built windmills, and in doing so, they had changed not just their own fate, but the fate of a 10,000-year empire. Not through superior firepower or technology, but through the most human qualities of all: creativity, adaptability, and the courage to imagine a different way.